Well, as I said, Your Excellency should put in a lot of effort to try to understand and research himself rather than relying on somebody else to just give him simple answers. Because it's not always so easy. I can assure you, it's not always so easy. And going through the effort of researching yourself means that the information will be driven inside and be much more easily retained.
Yeah.
I think because of this, I would like to get the author, the ESBN number of the version you have, because I know that this is a limited edition that does not contain most of the Hebrew texts. And this is not big enough. I think maybe 130 pages or 150 pages. I have a feeling that it is more than what is printed here. This is really a kind of a summary, a resume.
Okay, so if Your Excellency goes to my website,
yes,
all the way down to the bottom of the front page is an entry for public library.
Yes.
If he clicks on the public library, he can find an electronic version of Torah.
Oh.
And you can see if it contains more or less information that might help.
I would do that.
So, yeah, it's a very important book, but not easily understood. And I suggest that almost all Jews haven't really read it because it's not so simple. No Jew really wants to understand Messiah ben Yosef as a general rule. Most Jews want to understand Messiah ben David because that's who they're looking for.
Right.
I see.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Messiah ben David came disguised as Messiah ben Yosef.
It's like at once upon a time I was traveling and I found myself in the midst of 4 professional colleagues at a point in time, and we were talking about Mashiach, and I mentioned about 2 messiahs. It was like a red eye. They say no, there's only one Messiah, one Mashiach, and it cannot be a second time. So I could see the difference after reading this book the 3rd time.
Yeah, as I said, you're going to find very little knowledge of Messiah ben Yosef because most Jews aren't interested, and because most Christians are not, they don't really want to study.
Yes, they have no interest for it.
You know, they got taught by some pastor and they're experts now. They don't need no stinking books to tell them about Messiah.
Yeah, that's
What is the best? Oh, sorry, His Excellency.
Okay, go ahead. Ariel.
What is the best way, practically, for preparing for final redemption?
To prepare for the final redemption, okay?
Is that in the public library too?
I'm not sure what Your Excellency is asking. I'm not aware of an electronic edition.
Okay.
I think I have read this book in the past, but I don't know where I put it.
Okay, this is a new edition. There was an older edition.
Okay. Okay.
I am Rosato, okay.
So it was out of print for quite some time, and then the new edition came out, and I don't know whether you can tell,
Wow.
But there's a difference in thickness. The new edition contains more pages, which is one of the reasons I wanted to make sure I got it, to see if there's anything I did not yet know.
Can you read the ISBN to us?
Yes. Isbin. 978-1-59826-584-2.
Okay. That is from Rabbi Lusat.
Yes. Chaim Luzzatto.
Hayim Lusat.
While we're on a break, I'm gonna publish this discussion with your permission.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, because I love recording. I love recording it.
Okay,
And,
so this version does not appear to have an ISBN number.
really?
Okay.
Okay, so it was, normally you look at the beginning of the book and he gives you all the good stuff. This one just says, hey, you can't copy this book. But it was published in Tikva in Israel, and that's about all you know. There's no copyright date, no ISBN, none of the normal things, because it was published in Israel, I'm guessing, where they didn't have that standard.
Okay. Voice of the Turtle Dove. Okay. Who's it by?
Rabbi Shakalover, the student of the Vilna Gaon.
Okay. It doesn't look like it's available on Amazon either. This is my go-to place to get books. But it is it is on your website. Let's see, public library.
And I don't see an ISBN number for the first edition of The Secrets of Redemption. It too was printed in Israel.
So I'm in your public library looking for final Voice of the Turtle Dove? Is that the one?
Yep, Kol HaTorah.
Kol HaTorah.
And which I thought another book that could give a better knowledge and understanding of the principle of gematria. Which book can one
if I were Your Excellency, I wouldn't go there. That's going to be a frustrating experience.
Okay.
Because gematria, there are some people who make up gematria based on their understanding, where almost all true gematria is based on an oral Torah understanding that many who go with, especially non-Jewish sources, who go with gematria are crazy, and you have to be very careful. There are others who go with things that are hard to understand. So try to make it simple. If two words have the same letters Of course they have the same gematria because they have the same letters. No matter what the order of the letters, the ultimate meaning of the two words are closely related. Why? Because the meaning of a word is based on the meaning of each letter. You add up the meaning of each letter and how each letter modifies the one before and modifies the one after, and now you know the meaning of the word. So if they've got the same letters, then they have to be closely related.
Okay.
Now, does that help? The fact that the gematria is the same? Well, not really. You already know if they have the same letters, they have the same gematria. And gematria is open to abuse. You can look at any word and say, well, the gematria of that word is blah, blah, blah. Therefore, it must be related to this and related to that and blah, blah, blah. And the short answer is maybe yes, maybe no. And it's been so difficult that I've avoided studying it in any great detail. It's just that difficult. Plus, there are some of us who are mathematically challenged. And if you're mathematically challenged, then gematria is even more difficult for you. So, I'm a poor one to ask questions. And if I were you, I would go with simpler subjects for a while and put that one on the back burner just because it's so difficult. You can get books that will help to understand gematria. And there are some rabbis who specialize in gematria that can help. But I found that in general, even when they give an explanation, you say, okay, so what does that mean? It's not so simple. Sorry, not so simple.
Yeah, what provoked me to ask the question about the best book is the word Mashiach und Nakash.
Oh, you want to look at the snake and Messiah and why they happen to have the same gematria, 354.
Yeah.
Well, you can find tons of articles on the internet that'll go through and talk about it. That's a very famous question. And you'll find lots and lots of answers.
Okay.
They're not altogether satisfied. At least in my mind, they weren't very satisfied. But there's a close relationship. And that is one of the gematria that is well known and authentic. It's worth comparing those two, and it's worth studying those two. But as I said, there are lots and lots of articles on the internet. If you put in Mashiach and Achash and 354, you're going to find, I think it's 354, isn't it?
358.
358. And look at 358, you'll find a bazillion articles. Some of them are quite good. I've looked at it myself in the past.
Toda Rabba.
Bavakasha.
Okay, Rabakasha. I got to remember that. Beautiful, beautiful. The session has been wonderful.
Yes.
And I pray that anytime you have questions, don't hesitate to ask me, because I can pass you off to any rabbi you want to talk to, you know.
Don't hesitate to me. I always have my wagon driver I can look back on.
Exactly. What I thought we were going to talk about was your means of support when you go back to your country.
Yes.
And I wanted to give you a progress report on that. Hashem has introduced into our circle a person that used to be involved in food distribution here in the area, or near Atlanta or somewhere. Anyway, before he retired, he had 7 or 8 stores that he supplied with groceries, for resale.
Okay.
So I'm going to talk to him and tell him your situation, and tell him what you want. Mainly dehydrated foods and stuff like that can be easily shipped. And most economically. And go from there.
I can tell you the shipping will exceed the cost of the food if it's coming from anywhere except close by in Africa.
Except Europe or maybe Israel or something like that.
No, it'll all be really expensive. My experience with shipping internationally from one country to another automatically adds like a 50% increase in cost. And every time I've ever shipped anything to a foreign country, the price has blown me away. So if you spend, let's say, $100 on dehydrated food, and it weighs, let's say, a pound, let's say it's freeze-dried rather than dehydrated, weighs a pound. Well, you might find that the shipping cost exceeds the value of the food in the first place. So what I'm getting at is sourcing your food locally is going to give you more food for the dollar. And Adon Ariel's idea of growing the food, whether it's with a fish farm or actually, cultivating crops, is far and away the cheapest and easiest. Especially if he already has a fish farm, he can use all of that stuff for fertilizer. Are you already using the effluent from the fish to fertilize?
Yes, but not much, because the fish farm is not in large production at this moment.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we're experiencing a famine throughout the world, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. Have you heard what's going on in Sri Lanka?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So it's bad, and it's really bad in Egypt already. And we're going to find that, I don't know how it is in Germany, but here in the United States, you go into the supermarket and you find empty aisles now.
Yeah, I think it's the food shortage, energy shortage is already a big challenge in most African countries as at today. And in Nigeria, it is almost at the peak. So thinking into action about minimizing the consequences among those around my network or the people I know them and face is really a very big challenge.
Okay, so one of the things that Adon Ariel that we've been looking at, we have a young lady staying with us until January who was born in Hong Kong and grew up in Hong Kong.
Okay.
And because of the food shortage, her parents said, well, we can just send you food. And that was a really good idea, but I went back and I said, sending us food, who wants food from China? You're already taking a great worry if you just get it from China. But not a week later, her mama had to send her a dress for a wedding. And the package that was set up was 6 pounds. They found out they can no longer ship packages from Hong Kong to the United States. They're heavier than 4 pounds. So something's going on where they used to be, I'm guessing, being able to ship via boat, and now they're having to ship via airplane. And I'm guessing that that's the reason why the weight has changed. But you can see, even dehydrated food, you don't get very much bulk and fit it in 4 pounds. Now, I do not know whether other countries have this limit, but it would be worth checking and seeing if it's true that there are limits. And Adon Ariel, don't be discouraged by what I said. What I'm saying is, go ahead and investigate the cost. See if shipping food is reasonable. But I would be really surprised if it's possible. You know, it might be overall cheaper to send money to Adon Ariel and let him go out to the local supermarket.
Yeah, that's. I tend to agree, but we will see. What we need though is like some way of sustenance for Adon Ariel when he gets back to his home country. You know, to because that's his heart for his countrymen. That's his mission, I guess you could say. Now, and that brings up another point. This is a rabbit trail. I apologize, but I've got to bring this up. In the Seder, there are 2 mentions of the nations, and in the first one, the Girgashites are mentioned, and in the second one they're not. And in my brief examination, is that the Girgashites fled their town instead of fighting. They said, "Hey, you guys want the town? You got it. We're going to Africa." You know. So, and I'm wondering if maybe some of the descendants did not wind up in Nigeria. You know. And I just thought that's just fascinating. You know, they're not of the tribes, but they're of the people that were forced from their homeland.
Yeah, they're the people that were supposed to be destroyed.
Exactly. You know, but were they supposed to be destroyed? Because he said, if they want to flee, let them flee. You know.
Yeah, they were smart. They were smarter than the average Canaanite.
Exactly. So, and I thought that was just, very interesting.
Have you read about any of the stories about the Queen of Sheba and the Ethiopians?
Oh, long time ago. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's another famous African story. And of course, the Operation Magic Carpet is now legendary, where they brought all the Ethiopians to Israel. I thought the most interesting story I heard when they were, they had like 800, 900, 1,000 people on a 747, took out all the seats and everybody's sitting on the floor, and the Ethiopians are breaking out their wood stoves and cooking on the floor of this airplane. You gotta eat, right?
Exactly, what's the problem?
Sometimes I make some kind of imagination what could be the scenario if the state of Israel brings 3 jumbo jets in the southeast of Nigeria, say there are close to 40 million Igbos who claim to be parts of the lost tribes of Israel should come back to Israel. I think at the point when I raised this question, His Excellency, or some parallel to, is it imaginable?
Well, the short answer is it's imaginable, but I suspect that what happened with a lot of the Ethiopians, perhaps even most, was that, yes, we understand you've got some kind of Jewish history behind you. Yes, we understand you've been keeping some of the mitzvot. But for the sake of shalom, we want you to all go through conversion. And that's often the solution when there is doubt.
Yeah.
Through conversion, take away the doubt. And some people say, but I'm already Jewish. What do you mean? I don't want to go through conversion you're stupid if you say that. You're just stupid. Why perpetuate a doubt if you don't need to? So if there are a bunch of Africans and Ethiopians or Nigerians or Ugandans or whatever that have a background of Jewishness, just let them go through conversion. And now there's no more dispute. On the other hand, if they go through conversion, probably have to pay their own transportation and take care of themselves when they get to Eretz Israel.
Yeah, I know some of people a few years ago, I think 2015, who left the Igbo land, the southeast of Nigeria, and completely immigrated to Israel and converted and lived. And I still know that if the process of the Yod is made available, straightforward, official, many people, if not millions of the more than 40 million Igbos today will go through the process of the Yod. But there hasn't been really a good official plan for this. As also, there has not been a clear plan or a clear process making it easier for people to really undergo the process of the Yod. So these are one of the things that crop up over and over again in my mind and heart and yeah. I say, how could it be? What is the best way to initiate a process that could see thousands and millions of people to convert?
That's easy. Just wait for Mashiach.
Pardon?
Just wait for Mashiach. Be patient.
To wait.
When Mashiach comes, one of his tasks is the ingathering of the exiles. And if these guys are exile type guys, well, he's going to gather them all back in. So what's the rush? Yeah, I'm guessing we're less than 7 years. And, it takes more than 7 years just to move the bureaucracy of any country to make such a major change, much less Israel, where it's half a religious issue and half a secular money issue. Put the two pieces together, you're going to be batting your head against the wall.
I see.
Anyhow, it's a problem not just for Africa. It's a problem for every country where people want to go to Israel, but they don't have the money, they don't have the language, they don't have the ability to work when they get there because they're not citizens, and then they have all kinds of red tape where everything's written in Hebrew and their job is tremendously complicated.
Is it true, and I've heard this recently, that actually Israel doesn't accept converts now? I mean,
the short answer is they do accept converts.
Well, who accepts the converts? I mean, who determines what a convert is?
So first there are two kinds of questions that come up here. First, if you want to be a convert and live in Nigeria, the process is straightforward. You find a rabbi in Nigeria that will teach you and then help you front the Beit Din and go through conversion. Now if you say, well, I want to convert and go to Israel, now you've just made it almost impossible. Why? Because if you convert with the idea of I'm going to go to Israel or I'm going to get married, you're no longer converting for the sake of Hashem, you're converting for some other reason.
Uh-huh.
And so suddenly they're going to say, nah, instead of being, a 6 month or a year process, going to make it, 25 years.
Wow. So now that's what it's confusing.
I'm exaggerating, by the way. 25 years. I'm exaggerating. All I'm saying is they're going to make it very difficult.
But if you say so, I've heard that, and I've heard like Rabbi Anava and others say that you need to get to Israel. You need to make Aliyah. So, but what you're saying is that if you tell them that you want to convert and then you want to make Aliyah, but it's kind of a convoluted I can't remember the word, the goal or purpose of your conversion. You're saying the purpose of the conversion is to go to Israel, and the purpose of the conversion is to be Israeli for the sake of Hashem. So why would
our rabbi, Hacham Harai, said, don't try to go to Israel. Whatever you do, don't go to Israel. Wait for the Messiah to send his carts. Remember, Joseph sent carts to bring his family?
Yeah.
Wait for the carts. When it's time to go, all expenses paid, miraculous transportation will be provided. Secondarily, if you're going to convert where you are, and don't be in a hurry to go anywhere. Don't be in a hurry to try and get married. Don't be in a hurry to try to move to Eretz Israel. Stay where you are. Things are going to get really rough in Eretz Israel. And if Hashem makes it hard for you to go, there are two possibilities. One, he doesn't want you to go. Or two, he's trying to really refine your character. And if you're looking to really refine your character, boy, you're a glutton for punishment. I'm not sure I'd want to go there, because it's really hard to refine our character.
Well, this reminds me of the Akedah and Abraham's journey to the mountain, because Hasatan put in 10 tests in front of him to prevent him from making it to Sinai, or the mountain, Moriah. So is it Hashem putting the roadblocks in your way, or is it a Satan, or is it Hashem telling us something?
Satan is just a stand-in for Hashem.
Yeah,
he's the servant of Hashem. Okay, so
he's
and if you notice, those stories are all midrashic.
Right.
And I think that they're trying to illustrate the fact that this was not a simple task for Abraham. That taking your son with the idea of making him into an offering, when he's your only son after 100 years, 137 in this case, it's a big, difficult situation. And I think that midrashic stories about raging rivers and all kinds of other subterfuge to keep him, I think those are all the kinds of things that are going through Abraham's mind as he's making this journey with his son. Somehow he's got to overcome some, what I'd call, great difficulties. So the bottom line is, we know Hashem helps us to refine our character. Yeah. And if he stirs you up and shakes you upside down and says, go to Israel, you go ahead and try. But our rabbi says, don't go. And he just says, now is not the time. And you know it's not the time, for example, because of all the Orthodox Jews still in America, still in Europe, still in Asia and Africa. They're all over, and they're not going yet. They're not being stirred up to go.
And I have my own theory about this, in that Israel is, it's like, I asked Akit this morning, I said, have you talked to her friend about something, and she said, well, yes and no. Well, is Israel Israel? Well, yes and no. Today's Israel is not the Israel that we are to go to. Today's Israel is run by a corrupt government. Today's Israel was set up by the Rothschilds, I believe. And so until Messiah comes back and corrects that situation, we don't need to be there. See, that's my own kind of theory about it.
Okay, if you had family that was living there, if you had a good job that was moving you there, if you had ways that would help get you through the process, maybe it's okay. But for the most part, right now, if you want to convert, and don't, whatever you do, don't have any other ulterior motive. I want to convert because I love Hashem and I want to serve Him. And leave it at that, and then see how the world turns. And if Hashem wants you there, it'll become real obvious real fast. And my guess is His Eminence will be already dead by then. Because, how do I say, He's given us a complete command, if you will. Don't go. It's dangerous. Don't go. Adon Ariel.
For the millions of people in Igbo land, southeast of Nigeria, who have been confused and seeking the clear way or the path to Hashem, and are really interested or desiring or yearning to convert to Hashem, what is the easiest and best way to facilitate the process? And in order to, yes, and to give them a sense of belonging.
So go to a local rabbi in your town, and start working with him.
Okay.
Because the Torah is very clear. We're always to work with the rabbi in the town where you are.
My town doesn't have a rabbi.
Who?
My town doesn't have a rabbi.
Then you're going to have to move.
No. Well, now wait a minute. Now I've already moved. I don't want to move again. So why isn't it the way I mean, like we converted, you know, and through our Beit Din, you know.
Okay, so you're already converted, so you don't need to go through conversion.
Right.
But if you have somebody that wants to go through conversion, they need to work with the rabbi in their town. And it's something that, as I said, if your town doesn't have a rabbi, you've got to move. Why? Because the process of conversion means that the rabbi and the congregation need to observe you and your lifestyle in order to understand whether you're ready to convert.
So it must be an Orthodox rabbi.
Well, if you're smart, yes. I've known a few people that said, well, it's easier to use one of these to, you know, conservative or reform. Yeah, it might be easier now, but all your problems would be compounded from lack of Torah. Much better to start from the beginning and get a good foundation with Torah, and your whole walk will become a lot easier.
Well, see,
so I'll give you an example. My little brother decided he was living in Linden, Tennessee, and decided he wanted to convert. So at the time, he was driving a truck, and his route took him to Montreal every Friday afternoon, and he left out of Montreal every Sunday afternoon. And so he went to the local synagogue for a few weeks and was introduced to the rabbi and several members of the congregation. And finally, after a few weeks, he started getting invitations from people to spend Shabbat in their homes. So he did that for, I guess, going on a year and a half. Finally, one Friday afternoon, when he went to the rabbi's house, the rabbi said, "So why aren't you going to go through conversion?" He says, "Well, Rabbi, I don't have any, I don't know what to do." The rabbi says, "So are you ready for conversion?" He says, "Of course." So the rabbi says, "Okay." He made 2 phone calls and he said, "Come on." And so they spent 10 minutes driving to the local synagogue. They had 2 more rabbis show up. They sent him through the mikveh, sent him through the moel, and an hour later, they said, "Okay, you're going to enter Shabbat as a Jew now." And all they got to see him was 2 days a week. But it was 2 days a week, every week for 18 months. You don't do that if you're not sincere. And then right after he converted, he said, "Okay, I got to get to an Orthodox community because Linden, Tennessee doesn't cut it." So he moved to Atlanta. I have a very large Jewish community there. And then after he'd been there for a few years, maybe 2 years, he decided he needed to get married. So he had a matchmaker find him a gal, and that gal happened to be in Lakewood, New Jersey. So they got married and he had to move to Lakewood, New Jersey, because that's where she was from. So the process of conversion, the process of going through marriage or an aliyah is not so simple. It's not so simple. And my brother is in a very Orthodox community. Why aren't they all going to Israel? Because they know something. They know that now is not the time. If you went to Eretz Israel, you'd have almost no time for Torah study. You'd be spending all your time working just to earn a living.
All right. That answers some of my questions. Toda Rabah.
It has helped me a lot.
Bevakasha.
It has really helped me a lot today. I really enjoyed it. It really warmed my heart, and I am more and more inspired.
Me too. Toda Rabah for a great class, impromptu class, and
Toda Rabah.
Okay, I'll let your excellencies go. Enjoy your day and have a Shavua Tov, what little is left of it.
And you also, and I will try to get the Seder out by noon tomorrow. Looks like it's on track. Gibret Sarai sent some correction, but other than that, it looks pretty good.
Did you make sure that the readings from the Al-Moez were the correct pages?
Well, glad you did. I'll double check his work.
Because he failed last week. That's why I'm asking.
He did?
Yes.
Okay, maybe I corrected it before I put it out.
Part of the issue is that little bit of overlap, whatever it was, 12 verses, messed up the page numbers a little bit. But that was the only thing after our session Monday. Is the only thing that came to mind is, maybe we ought to check that. Should be okay.
It should be.
Now, I've completed the 7-year Torah schedule that begins on Rosh Hashanah of this year. And I'm making my 4th pass now through it, looking for errors. I have to make at least one pass where I don't find an error, otherwise it's not quite ready. But ultimately, when I'm done, we need to send it out to the group, and y'all need to find more errors. And you're not going to be able to just skim over it. You're not going to be able to, casually look at it. It's going to be one of those where, why did he do that? Go find the answer.
Okay.
Is that right? Go find the answer. It's so difficult, because you have essentially 7 years worth of reading, so 7 times 52 weeks, plus all the festivals. It's clearly a lot of detail that has to be gone through. So, gentlemen, enjoy your afternoon, knowing that soon I'm going to be inundating them with lots of detail.
Oh, I wanted to ask: are we going to have class Sunday morning?
Well, the short answer is I debated and said, if y'all want, there's no reason we shouldn't.
Okay.
It's not like you're going someplace and you're just not going to be eating.
Right. That's what I just wanted to make sure, since it is.
It was my intention to have a class because, how do I say it? We just have to study the right things, and we just have to avoid eating.
Right.
So that was my plan.
All right. Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Toda rabba.